The peace chamber wasn't built for growls. But that's what echoed first, a low, guttural sound that vibrated through polished walls and made two of the human aides flinch. On the alien side of the negotiation table, something massive exhaled. Hot breath steamed in the recycled air. Clawed paws clicked once on the marble floor. General Muthvac leaned back smugly. "A reminder," he said in perfect English, "of what walks with us." Behind him, their creature towered sleek, black-skinned, with too many eyes and muscles like coiled cables. A predator grown in war vats, designed to smell adrenaline and silence it. The humans didn't speak. Not at first. Then came the slow creak of a cage being unlatched. No fanfare. No translator. Just a rustle of fur, and then the quiet thump of padded paws crossing tile. It wasn't until the alien predator stopped growling that everyone turned. A tiger. Orange and white, breathing slow, eyes like carved amber, unblinking. It didn't roar. It didn't need to. It simply sat down beside its handler, tail curling neatly, gaze fixed on the mutant beast across the room like it had already won, and was just waiting for everyone else to figure it out. Colonel James Grant stepped forward, calmly buttoning the jacket of his dark blue suit. The other diplomats followed quietly, tense but controlled. The massive creature at their side, named Leo, as Grant had affectionately introduced him earlier, settled comfortably beside his handler, a middle-aged man named Eric Tanner. Across the table, the aliens murmured to each other in low voices, their own beast shifting uneasily. It had been genetically engineered for one purpose: domination through intimidation. Yet it was clear to everyone now that it had encountered something it hadn't prepared for. Muthvac narrowed his eyes at the tiger. "An interesting gesture, Colonel Grant. You hope to impress us with your animal?" Grant tilted his head slightly. "Number. Just thought it was fair. You brought your own." The alien's mouth tightened in mild annoyance. "Our predator serves a specific purpose." "So does ours," Grant replied evenly. "He reminds us who we are." Muthvac glanced back at his aide, a slimmer, quieter alien with pale blue skin, who offered a brief, whispered explanation. The general turned slowly back to Grant, his expression unreadable. "It does not seem dangerous," he remarked dismissively. Leo lay down quietly, muscular frame relaxed, yet alert. The humans at the table did not respond. The predator was speaking for itself, its silence louder than any growl. Negotiations began with rigid formality. Both sides had spent months preparing trade routes, territory disputes, and carefully worded clauses covering every imaginable contingency. Yet through it all, the true conversation simmered beneath words, transmitted through glances between predator and prey. Nearly 2 hours into the talks, the alien beast snarled again, louder this time. The humans tensed, but Leo didn't even twitch. He simply watched the alien predator with calm indifference. This lack of reaction triggered amusement among the aliens, who chuckled quietly and exchanged knowing looks. "Your beast is timid," Muthvac sneered. "Has it forgotten its purpose?" Tanner, who had remained silent thus far, finally spoke. "He hasn't forgotten. He just hasn't seen a reason to act." General Muthvac's eyes narrowed. "Then perhaps we should provide him one." Tension thickened the air again. A few seconds ticked by with oppressive silence. Grant steadied his breath, sensing the shift in mood as clearly as if it had been spoken. Then, without warning, the alien predator lunged. 500 pounds of genetically perfected killing machine surged forward, a flash of teeth and claws. Its leap was swift, aimed at the tiger, a primal challenge intended to prove dominance in front of both delegations. Leo moved exactly once. A single explosive movement, impossibly fast for such a large creature. His paws met the floor with astonishing precision, twisting gracefully to avoid the full force of the alien beast. Claws flashed out, slicing through the alien's thick hide in one precise swipe, before he settled instantly back into stillness. The engineered predator crashed heavily onto the marble, skidding and gasping in surprise and pain. Thick blood seeped from deep cuts along its flank and shoulder. Stunned, it struggled back to its feet, breathing heavily and limping. It was clearly wounded, but alive. Grant signaled the human medic to approach carefully, scanner in hand. Kneeling beside the alien creature, The medic began a quick assessment. The injuries appear superficial, he reported calmly. 3 deep lacerations, minor muscle damage. It'll need immediate treatment to avoid infection, but no major arteries were hit. Will it live? Muthvak asked sharply, visibly shaken by the unexpected outcome. Yes, the medic replied. Recovery should take about 4 to 6 weeks. Its mobility will be restricted during that time, but it should fully recover. Muthvak glanced toward Grant, eyes dark with anger. Your animal could have killed it. Yes, Grant said plainly. But he chose not to. The alien general sat back slowly, digesting the implication. Your predator obeys you well. Tanner shook his head slightly. Number he doesn't obey. He chooses. Muthvak hesitated, the realization dawning visibly on his face. It was clear that the aliens had never considered this possibility that humans lived not by mastery over nature, but in partnership with it. Their engineered predator, built only to obey, had been defeated by something free to choose. Silence settled back over the chamber, heavy with new understanding. Leo calmly returned to Tanner's side, settling down once more, entirely relaxed as though nothing had happened. His amber eyes closed slowly, signaling his calm contentment with the outcome. Grant spoke quietly, but his voice carried clearly across the room. Shall we continue? General Muthvak straightened his shoulders, the arrogance of his entrance, now replaced by cautious respect. Yes, he said finally, I believe we should. Negotiations resumed with newfound clarity and surprising ease. For the first time, the aliens met humans not as rivals to be cowed, but as equals worthy of careful consideration. And beside the humans sat the tiger, calm and quiet, an unwavering reminder that power could exist without threat and strength without fear. The negotiations continued well into the evening, guided by an uneasy but genuine respect. The wounded alien predator had been carefully led out, given prompt medical care, and placed in recovery. Occasionally, delegates would glance nervously at the blood-stained patch on the marble floor, a stark reminder of the earlier confrontation. Colonel Grant felt fatigue settling in, the adrenaline fading, leaving behind a dull ache of tension in his shoulders. Beside him, Leo had returned to quietly observing, his great head resting on his paws, ears flicking lazily at every sound. As the evening wore on, General Muthvak became increasingly quiet, occasionally consulting his aides. Eventually, he stood and called for a recess, allowing both delegations a chance to rest. During the break, Grant stood by the chamber window, staring at the stars glittering quietly against the black void. A subtle cough behind him broke his reverie. Tanner was there, offering a bottle of water. How long has he been training with you? Grant asked, nodding toward Leo. 4 years, Tanner said, taking a sip from his own bottle. But training isn't quite the right word. It's more like understanding. Grant frowned slightly. You really think he chose not to kill? Tanner nodded slowly. I know he did. It's not loyalty, not obedience. It's a relationship based on trust. Grant sighed softly. Let's hope the aliens understand that. Across the chamber, Muthvak was in quiet conversation with his aides. Grant watched as they argued quietly, some clearly displeased. The alien general finally waved them off, approaching Grant slowly. Colonel Grant, he began hesitantly, I find myself compelled to ask questions I never imagined necessary. Go ahead, Grant replied calmly. Muthvak paused. Your tiger Leo, you call him, what modifications have you made to him? None, Grant answered. He's exactly as nature made him. The alien seemed to process this carefully, clearly troubled. You live willingly beside such a creature? Grant smiled faintly. Humans have lived alongside dangerous animals for thousands of years. It isn't always peaceful, but we learned respect. Respect? Muthvak repeated skeptically. You learned respect from creatures that could kill you at any moment? Grant's expression became thoughtful. Yes, respect taught us humility. It taught us caution. And from caution came coexistence. Muthvak shook his head, still struggling with the concept. We have always used genetic modifications, shaping creatures to serve us. It is safer, predictable. But it creates fear, not trust, Grant pointed out. Your creature obeyed, but it didn't understand why. Our tiger understands perfectly. That's why he could make a choice. A faint, thoughtful sound emerged from the alien, Your approach is strange, Colonel Grant. Dangerous, but intriguing. Grant shrugged lightly. Humanity thrives because of danger, not despite it. The general fell silent, considering this. After a moment, he turned back to his delegation, signaling the recess was over. As the talks resumed, Grant felt the dynamic shift more decisively. Discussions that were previously deadlocked suddenly moved forward. Border disagreements, resource management, and trade routes began to find common ground. The aliens negotiated cautiously, still wary, but clearly intent on cooperation rather than intimidation. Leo continued to observe, occasionally stretching and yawning, never once showing any further sign of aggression. His mere presence spoke volumes, underscoring every negotiation with a quiet reminder that power didn't need to be violent or aggressive to be effective. By nightfall, significant progress had been made. Human and alien diplomats alike appeared relieved and quietly hopeful. Finally, General Muthvac stood, signaling the session's end. We have made excellent progress today. We will reconvene tomorrow to finalize these agreements. As delegates began filing out, Grant noticed Muthvac lingering behind, eyes fixed thoughtfully on Leo. Grant approached him again, voice quiet but firm. General, there's something you should see. The alien hesitated before nodding cautiously. Grant led him to a side room, activating a display. Images of Earth appear ancient cave paintings depicting humans alongside wolves, bears, and lions. Muthvac studied the images intently, confusion evident on his face. These beasts were wild? Yes, Grant confirmed softly. They were never tamed through force, only through mutual respect. The alien reached toward the screen, almost reverently. Your species chose coexistence over dominance? We did, Grant said quietly. Not easily, not quickly, but we learned. Humans have been predators, prey, and companions. The tiger is all of these. Muthvac's gaze returned to Leo, who lay peacefully just beyond the doorway, tail slowly flicking. I had never considered such a thing possible. Grant nodded thoughtfully. Maybe now you'll consider other possibilities. The general exhaled slowly. Indeed. Perhaps we have underestimated humanity's complexity. Grant smiled slightly. We often underestimate ourselves. As Muthvac departed, Grant returned to Tanner, who gently stroked Leo's fur. The tiger stretched leisurely, eyes half open, completely at ease. You think this changed their minds? Tanner asked quietly. It opened them, Grant said, watching the last alien delegates leave. That's a start. Leo rose slowly, padding over to the large window, amber eyes reflecting distant stars. Grant watched him, marveling once again at the quiet strength contained in that powerful frame. Humans had not dominated this animal. They'd never needed to. He had chosen to walk with them, and that choice was a strength greater than any forceful obedience. That night, as both delegations rested, Grant couldn't help but reflect on the delicate nature of what had happened. It wasn't weapons, threats, or even diplomacy that changed the course of history today. It was respect, embodied in a tiger's quiet gaze. Tomorrow, they would finalize peace. Tonight, Grant simply hoped they had truly understood the lesson. The following morning, the station awoke with a newfound sense of cautious optimism. Delegates filed back into the peace chamber, some sipping coffee or tea, others speaking quietly as they settled into their seats. Colonel Grant entered alongside Eric Tanner, who held Leo's leash loosely. The Bengal tiger strolled with unhurried grace, head high and ears alert. General Muthvac was already present, deep in conversation with his aides, though he quickly silenced them as Grant approached. A brief nod was exchanged, respectful but cautious. As the day began, discussions quickly moved toward finalizing treaties, particularly around shared defense strategies and the protection of contested trade routes. Yet the previous day's encounter lingered, subtly reshaping every conversation. Midway through the morning, Grant noticed a young alien technician quietly enter and approach Muthvac, whispering something urgent. The general's expression hardened. He looked briefly disturbed before addressing the delegation. Our predator's condition has deteriorated overnight, he announced solemnly. The injuries appeared minor initially, but there is now evidence of significant swelling and potential internal damage. Grant's stomach tightened. Beside him, Tanner straightened, clearly unsettled. Muthvak continued carefully. Our medical technicians are unfamiliar with treating injuries inflicted by your tiger. We would appreciate assistance from your physicians. Grant immediately agreed. We'll send our medic over immediately. Within minutes, the human medical technician, Dr. Samantha Reyes, hurried to the alien medical wing, carrying portable imaging devices and diagnostic equipment. Grant accompanied her, recognizing the delicate nature of the situation. Upon arriving, Grant saw the alien predator lying uneasily on a large medical bed, breathing rapidly, clearly distressed. Reyes immediately began scanning, gently but methodically assessing the creature. After a careful examination, Reyes turned to Muthvak. The initial wounds weren't severe, but there's swelling around the shoulder muscles. It seems your team missed signs of a deeper muscle tear and developing infection. He needs immediate surgical treatment to drain fluid and repair damaged tissue. The alien medical officer shifted nervously. We were unsure how to approach such wounds. I understand. Reyes reassured him gently. We can perform the procedure here. It's relatively straightforward. Recovery should take around 8 weeks, but he'll heal completely. Muthvak's expression softened. We appreciate your assistance. While Reyes began preparations, Grant watched quietly, noting the alien predator's glazed, uncertain stare. The beast seemed disoriented, perhaps even ashamed. This creature, bred for war and intimidation, was experiencing vulnerability for perhaps the first time. Grant turned to Muthvak, who stood silently beside him. How often do your predators face injury? Rarely, the general admitted slowly. We design them to overwhelm, not to be defeated. And if they are defeated? Grant pressed gently. They are discarded, Muthvak replied quietly. A wounded predator has no value. Grant frowned softly. Maybe that's part of your problem. Muthvak looked confused. Explain. Grant sighed softly. Our tiger, Leo, he's been injured many times. Hunting accidents, encounters with other tigers. Each scar taught him caution. He learned resilience, patience, respect for limits. You allow predators to fail? Muthvak asked incredulously. We allow them to learn. Grant clarified carefully. Nature does not discard the wounded. It shapes them. The general fell silent, considering this deeply. After several minutes, he quietly responded. Perhaps we have misunderstood nature entirely. Reyes finished her preparations swiftly. Assisted by an alien technician, she carefully sedated the predator, made precise surgical incisions, drained fluid from the damaged tissue, and thoroughly cleaned the infected area. As the wound was expertly stitched closed, Grant noticed Muthvak watching the procedure closely, visibly moved by the human's gentle professionalism. When Reyes finally stepped back, removing her surgical gloves, she turned to Muthvak. He should rest comfortably now. I administered antibiotics to control infection. The next 2 days are critical, but his prognosis is good. Muthvak nodded slowly. Thank you. Grant placed a reassuring hand on the general's shoulder. This wasn't just compassion. It's cooperation, mutual respect. Muthvak studied Grant carefully. You treat even your enemies with dignity. Grant smiled faintly. Respect creates allies. Fear only breeds enemies. Returning to the negotiation chamber, both leaders carried a quiet, shared understanding. The atmosphere in the room shifted perceptibly. Aliens spoke with less defensiveness, while humans approached with heightened sensitivity. Leo lay down peacefully, seemingly content with the softened mood around him. By midday, agreements came swiftly, finalized without the guarded tension of previous days. Trade routes, mutual defense strategies, and even cooperative exploration initiatives were signed without significant dispute. The memory of mutual vulnerability seemed to bind the delegations more powerfully than any display of strength could have. Toward evening, as aides finalized documents, Grant approached Tanner, quietly stroking Leo's fur. You realize he changed history, Grant murmured. Tanner smiled softly. He always knew more than we gave him credit for. Grant chuckled lightly, shaking his head in quiet amazement. As the session ended, Muthvak approached, his demeanor respectful and thoughtful. Colonel Grant, I would like to formally express our delegation's gratitude not just for your medical assistance, but for a lesson in humility we badly needed. Grant nodded warmly. We're all learning, General. Muthvac glanced toward Leo one last time, curiosity tempered by lingering caution. Perhaps someday, your tiger might teach our predator a better way. Perhaps, Grant agreed quietly, but that choice must be his. As both delegations filed out, Grant felt quiet pride not in dominance or victory, but in the fragile bonds forged through trust, vulnerability, and respect. Leo, calm and serene, watched quietly as the chamber emptied, a living symbol that peace required bravery far beyond simple aggression. Weeks after the summit concluded, Colonel Grant found himself walking along a quiet wooded trail in the expansive wildlife sanctuary outside Washington, D.C. The air was crisp, leaves rustling softly beneath his feet. He wasn't alone. Eric Tanner walked beside him, hands deep in the pockets of his coat, both men enjoying the peaceful silence of the preserve. Ahead of them, Leo padded gracefully, free of any leash or restraint. The tiger moved leisurely, nose lifted slightly, tasting the breeze. Grant watched him with quiet admiration. Leo was now back in his natural environment, no longer needed to stand as a symbol, yet somehow more impressive in his quiet freedom. It's good to see him home, Tanner said softly, breaking the comfortable quiet. Grant nodded. He deserves it, more than anyone. They reached a clearing, sunlight filtering gently through the canopy, creating scattered patches of warmth on the forest floor. Leo paused briefly, glancing back as if silently inviting them closer. Tanner laughed softly. Seems like he's leading us now. Grant smiled slightly. Maybe he always was. They sat together on a fallen log, observing Leo as he settled gracefully onto the grass, grooming one paw with quiet dignity. The tiger's calm energy was infectious, drawing them into a peaceful reverie. Grant's communicator vibrated softly, interrupting the tranquility. He glanced down and saw a message from General Muthvac, an unexpected but pleasant surprise. He opened it, sharing the screen with Tanner. The message read simply, "Our predator has fully recovered. We have reassigned him from combat roles. Your lesson continues to teach us much." Grant exhaled slowly, smiling thoughtfully. Seems like something genuinely changed. Tanner nodded. You really think they'll follow through? Grant considered this quietly before responding. It won't be easy. Their whole society was built on domination, but respect can be learned, if they're willing. Tanner glanced at Leo thoughtfully. We did. Grant chuckled softly. Still working on it. Leo suddenly raised his head, ears swiveling toward a distant sound. Both men turned instinctively, noticing a small group approaching along the trail-guided tour of young schoolchildren accompanied by their teacher. Grant watched curiously as the children approached carefully, eyes wide with excitement and awe upon seeing Leo. Their teacher spoke softly, reminding them of respectful behavior around wild animals. Leo observed them calmly, not moving. Slowly, carefully, the teacher allowed the children to move closer, encouraging quiet observation. One girl stepped forward cautiously, clearly nervous, yet brave. Does he bite? She whispered anxiously. Tanner shook his head gently. Only if he chooses to, but right now he's just relaxing. The girl's eyes widened in thoughtful understanding. You mean he could hurt us, but he doesn't want to? Grant smiled warmly. Exactly. He respects us because we respect him. The girl nodded solemnly, clearly absorbing this simple yet profound idea. She stepped back, content to watch quietly, her fear replaced by cautious admiration. Eventually, the class moved on, quietly discussing their remarkable encounter. Grant and Tanner watched them go, feeling hopeful. Leo continued his grooming, unaffected by the fleeting interaction, quietly confident in his own nature. After a long, comfortable silence, Tanner spoke quietly. You think they understand the lesson? Grant sighed softly, watching Leo stretch lazily. Not yet, but someday they'll remember, just like the aliens will. As the sun began its slow descent, casting long shadows across the sanctuary, Grant and Tanner stood, preparing to return. Leo rose gracefully, stepping lightly alongside them, his presence calm yet commanding. At the sanctuary gate, Grant paused briefly, his communicator buzzing again. Another message from Muthvaka, short but meaningful question. Your tiger, was he engineered at all? Grant's fingers tapped a brief, simple response. Number. That's just nature. A long pause followed before another message arrived. Then what are you? Grant considered carefully before typing his final reply. Still learning. With that, he pocketed the communicator, glancing warmly at Leo one final time before leaving the sanctuary. The tiger settled comfortably in the grass once more, amber eyes bright and watchful. Peace had not come from dominance or power, nor even from intricate diplomacy alone. It had come through quiet strength and patient respect, embodied by a creature who chose calm when violence was easy. Leo watched the sun dip slowly behind the trees, content to simply be himself. And humanity, having glimpsed what true strength could look like, took a step closer to becoming worthy companions in the eyes of nature and the universe.